Let's begin today's webinar. So, as usual, I have created a deck. Okay, so as we all know, the topic for today's webinar is Yoga Vasishta. Yoga Vasishta is the first Vedic treatise on yoga. Most of the people believe that uh, Panini or Patanjali was the originator of yoga. The Yoga Sutras of Patanjali are not his origin. He himself claims very clearly in the text that he has only collected it from the various sources. And the original concept of yoga, as we know it, was first propounded by one of the Sapta Rishis, the seven greatest rishis, called Vasistha. Not much is known about Vasistha's life, as with any of the rishis of our time, of the Vedic time. And whatever little is known, it's thanks to a brilliant work of Valmiki and his maiden work, Ramayana. It is important to know in this context that Valmiki's Ramayana and Tulsidas Ramcharitmanas are differing in many ways. In Valmiki's Ramayana, Rama is called as Maryada Purushottam, the finest among men, one of the greatest kings, and also a great yogi. Whereas in Tulsidas Ramcharitmanas, Rama is Bhagavan, he is God. So no matter what Rama does, you cannot question Rama. Whereas in Valmiki's Ramayana, everybody questions Rama, his judgment, and yet he prevails in pursuing what he thinks according to his conscience as right. Valmiki's Ramayana is written in Vedic Sanskrit, whereas Tulsidas Ramcharitmanas is written in Avadi, which is what we now call as Hindustani. It's the earlier version. A lot of words are similar, a lot of characters are similar. However, their portrayal and judgments in both the text are diametrically opposite. So please do bear this in mind as we explore this great concept of yoga propounded in Yoga Vasishta. The first thing we need to know is what is yoga. The yoga is a Vedic Sanskrit word which comes from a root word called as yuj or the path. But what path? The yoga follows the Vedas. The word Veda comes from the root word vid. The vid implies wisdom. So yoga can be better understood as the path of wisdom. Now, the yoga as we know it today, as an exercise, as a breathing exercise, body exercise, meditation, or mindfulness, that is a part of, smaller part of the greater yogic tradition called as Astanga Yoga. Ashtanga Yoga literally translates to 8 limbs, and it is a very minuscule aspect. It is like a kindergarten in our education system. It's a very basic step. Now that we know that Yoga Vasishta was the original text that propounded the yoga as we know it, it is important to know what it stands for, why it is important, and also to understand if there are any practical aspects of this greater yogic tradition which we could follow and benefit from in today's environment. To say that the world is in chaos would be an understatement. The pandemic has caused an irreparable damages, and the consequences that we are already seeing to the economy is devastating. Job loss, uncertainty over investments, chaos, and being unable to understand or being unable to make a sense of this situation is costing us a significant amount of emotional and mental unrest. And as we have seen across the human history and civilization, whenever such time occurs, people tend to do a lot of stupid things. And this happens, according to Yoga Vasishta, not because of the external circumstances, but because of the internal confusions. The Yoga Vasishta has a beautiful quote in which the Vasishta says, for a foot that is wearing a footwear, it is like the entire world is covered in carpet. Similarly, for a mind that is at peace, the entire world is always a sea and ocean of great possibilities. The objective of Yoga Vasishta, therefore, is to find our peace and calm. In the other Vedic text, particularly Charaka Samhita and Sushruta Samhita, the two towering works that lay the groundwork for Ayurveda or the life of science, the science of life, or even wisdom of life, they clearly suggest that if your mind is healthy, your body is healthy. If your mind is unhealthy, it is a matter of time before your body is infested with diseases. A great many of the modern medical professionals do stand by this. That is why they always tell, relax, keep calm every time you are not feeling well. The Yoga Vasishta is a phenomenal knowledge, and it is not easy to explain this knowledge in a matter of 1 hour's time. There are two aspects to the Yoga Vasishta. The one is practical and second one is philosophical. In this brief webinar, I will only be covering the practical aspects of Yoga Vasishta, aspects that you can understand effortlessly and even try and apply in your day-to-day life. Now, let me give you a brief uh, as to what exactly led to this Yoga Vasishta. The story goes that after Rama completed his education, by the time he was 17 years old, he returned to the palace to Ayodhya, and his father, Dasharatha, made him the crown prince. Now, the rule of the time was that even before a crown prince can take on his work, it was very important for a crown prince to make a voyage across the length and breadth of his nation and connect, understand, and even feel his people. That is because if a leader or a king is unable to connect with his own subjects, it becomes absolutely difficult for any person to rule well. So you need to have that connect. And remember, during the Vedic era, there were no social media. There was nothing like Twitter, Facebook, where people, or even email, where people could petition the king through remotely. Nevertheless, once his voyage was over a period of 4 or 5 years, he came back to Ayodhya and his father asked, So what do you think, my son? And then Prince of Ayodhya, Rama, suggested, Father, I am disillusioned. I am disturbed. I saw poverty. I saw people with wealth, people without wealth. People with wealth and people without wealth are both unhappy. Neither the person with wealth wants to share it, neither the person who is without wealth is able to restrain himself from hating those with wealth. I saw suffering of people for various reasons. Physical too. The economy is not doing great. The pain that is being caused to the world is immeasurable, irreparable. I don't think I have it in me to solve this problem. I don't think I'm the right person to lead. So Dasharatha asked Rama, so what do you want to do, my son? And Dasharatha said, the Rama said, I want to renounce my claim to the throne and I just want to be a hermit and ascetic. Dasharatha was shocked. He was his favorite son, most loved one, who also was very deserving. And yet, against everything that has transpired, everything he has done for him, now he doesn't want to rule. It was not an easy thing for Dasharatha to understand or comprehend the situation. But he knew that if he spoke anything wrong, things may go out of hand. So what Dasharatha did is that he approached his Rajaguru or the royal mentor, Rishi Vashistha, and he said, Guru, I have this problem. Can you please help? My son, who is the crown prince, want to renounce this world. What am I to do? So Vashishtha smiled. He said, don't worry, son. Let me talk to him. And Vasishta came all the way from his hermitage in the forest, far away, to Ayodhya and had a discussion with the prince of Ayodhya, Rama. And the Yoga Vasishta is essentially this discussion which transpired between the one of the greatest rishis or the Sapta rishis, Vasishta and Rama. According to Valmiki, the Yoga Vasishta helped Rama to attain a very sage state of mind. Rama had the reason why Valmiki called Rama as Maryada Purushottam or the finest among men is because he never gave himself to anger at any point in time. He never even cried after this point in time. So if you are asking me, but there is a television serial that has been aired recently and that says that Rama was emotional at some point in time. Do note that that is Tulsidas Ramcharitmanas, written in Awadhi around 14th to 15th century, and the Valmiki's Ramayana is at least 6,000 to 5,000 years old. So I always bear this in mind. So in a nutshell, the situation is this: Rama is frustrated, he's deluded, and he's dejected. The same feeling what almost everyone in the world is currently suffering owing to a significant amount of the economic hardships. And as I have already mentioned, when Rama visited his kingdom was not prosperous. There was poverty, there was unequal distribution of wealth, uh, there was strong dissent between the bourgeois and the working class. The healthcare system was not good, so people were suffering of diseases. Mortality rates were high, and nothing really was looking promising until Rama came into the picture after a gap of 16 years from this point of the Yoga Vasishta. So the situation is not much different. So even if you remove Rama from the equation and you put yourself into this equation at any given point in time, you can still benefit from the great wisdom of Vasishta on yoga. Also know that the counseling is not a recent technique. It is not a science or art that has been come to light recently. Most people would like to suggest that the Vedic counseling is a very recent occurring. Always remember that in the Vedic era, there were no commandments. There were nothing like you will do this or you will not do this. There was always a simple discussion. Upanishads, Valmiki's Ramayana, even Vyasa's Mahabharata, everywhere, none of these so-called students or disciples ever agrees to their guru or their preceptors. There's always a discussion. The preceptor, the student is always in some emotional problems. He's unable to comprehend the situation. He is disillusioned. The preceptor suggests him a way out. The student is unable to comprehend, so he asks more questions. Then the guru answers, and the sequence of question and answer keeps going on until there is a confirmed agreement between the preceptor as well as his student. Always remember that entire Vedic philosophy is not dictum, it's not a diktat, thou shalt do or thou shalt not do. It is ability to understand. There is also a concept called as Swadharma. Swadharma is the right to self-determination. So we often see that in today's world, people want to try and find a reason for their existence. Why am I here for? What am I supposed to do? What am I going to do about it? And when they fail to find this reason, they lose their cool, and it leads to a lot of chaos, not just within the person but outside the person, in his family, in his society, even nation and the world at large. So if we want to achieve peace in the world, we need people to have peace in their mind. The peace in mind never comes by wealth. The wealth only creates more problem. But that is not to suggest that the wealth is useless. You must know what is wealth. You must understand why it is important. You have to realize wealth. You have to earn it. And then you need to know how to work with it. But before that, if your mind is not at peace, if you are unable to comprehend the life, if you are unable to have the knowledge and wisdom that can help you to understand the consequences, nothing is going to ever make sense. So the Vedic counseling was all about fixing the mind. And remember, you are not the mind. I'll explain this briefly in the coming chapters, but the key takeaway is that you are not the mind. Mind is not your master. And if you can control your mind, you can win anything in this world. But first, it starts with mental peace and tranquility. This is one of the first shlokas which is said by Vasishta. He says, Divi bhumau tatha kasho bahirantascha me vibhuhu yo nibhatya vavasatyatma tasmai sarvatmane namaha. Sarvatma that exists in all living beings in the world, including you, me, animals, trees, anything that breathes and moves. I pay my most sincere obeisance. This is an important quote because there is no mention here or anywhere in the Yoga Vasishta originally about the God. There is no saying that there is someone out there in the heaven who is going to tell you things, dictate things, or that the stars in the sky will decide your future. So that's why you need to consult people who can decode the meaning of the stars or anything like that. The entire endeavor of Yoga Vasishta, like any other Vedic text before them, is to understand who you are, to see that you are not the mind, you are not the body, but beyond that mind and body. And that which you are is also that which is made every living being in this world possible. As I suggested, the Yoga Vasishta, like many Vedic texts, is never about God, but to know, understand, and realize Atman. Now, those who have not attended my previous webinar, let me give you a brief recollection of what is Atman. The Vedic texts were written by the seers and sages called rishis or rishikas over thousands of years. For a long period of time, at least for I think 2000 or 3000 years of the Vedic civilization, they had limited understanding of the self. They they initially thought that they were the body, like any one of us still continue to believe. But then they realized the body is always changing. You know, the body you had when you are 1 year old, 2 year old, or what the body you are having right now are very different. So this body is not the body you had, 7 years back. And still you do exist. So you are not the body. So then they thought for a long time that probably we are the mind or mana. But then one of the rishis realized that when we are deep asleep, we don't know who we are. We are not connected to this body. We don't know where we are. We don't know our wealth. We don't know our relatives, the loved ones of the person we hate. And yet we are there. So when the mind is not there, we are still there. So what are we? And that is how the word Atmana was born. The At means that which transcends, and Mana means the mind. So the foremost thing any person has to understand is this word Atmana. And do know that Atmana is not soul. Soul is a semantic concept. It is apparently a part of the body which will either go to heaven or to earth, depending upon the notion of karma that you create. So what is Atman? Let's explore. The Yoga Vasishta has 6 prakaranas or 6 chapters. It starts with Vairagya Prakarana. The word Vairagya implies Vai meaning not and Ragya meaning attachment. So if you are without an attachment, then you are a Vairagi. Always remember that not having attachment doesn't mean that you don't love or hate someone. If you are hating anyone, you are not on path of wisdom, and that is not the right thing to do. However, the most works of yoga that are available in market are written by people who like to call themselves as Vairagi. So what they essentially do is that they leave their house and they join another house, which is called as a ashram or whatever, a Guru Dhama, whatever. And most of the Yoga Vasishta, if you look at it, the original text have been greatly distorted. There are, as I already, so I'm sure you might have this question in your mind. If there is no God, why is it that the Yoga Vasishta I read has God? I would say that is simply because of mistranslation. Most people today follow Sanskrit called as Panini Sanskrit, or which comes from the Sanskrit grammarians were Panini's Ashtadhyayi, and that Sanskrit is used was written only 2000 years ago. No Vedic text ever uses that language anymore. So if you are using a language which was written recently to decode a language which was written thousands of years ago, you're bound to have a lot of mistranslations and also blunders. And on the contrary, In the first chapter, what exactly happens is that Vasishta dissuades Rama from becoming a hermit and ascetic. He says that if you want to, the idea of Vairagya is to help the world. You are the crown prince. You have a great opportunity in your hand to help and benefit people. And if you are leaving that opportunity to become some insignificant person in the world, you are doing the stupidest thing. Don't do that. In the Mumukshu Vyavahara Prakaranam, so Mumukshutva is an approach where if you are disturbed, you approach someone who can help you to cut the clutter and have a clarity of mind. So in the Mumukshu Vyavahara Prakaranam, Vasishta explains in very simple terms why a person, if he is chaotic, must talk to a wise person, how to understand this wise person, what are the qualities of this wise person. In Utpatti Prakaranam, his Utpatti essentially means the source or the creation. And it is not about the creation of the world, but the creation of the mind. He says the mind is there, but it is not there. Mind is a part of the body. It is born of the body and it dies with the body, whereas you are not the mind. And it explains in significant lengths the greater importance of the mind, mana, and atmana. He explains when the mind is at work and when the atmana is at work. In Sthiti Prakaran, he explains great ways to calm and keep the mind calm at all times. It doesn't matter if once you become a Sthita Prajna, that is the key word of this chapter. If somebody is betraying you, you are still calm. If somebody is loving you, you are still calm. You get an award, you are fine. You don't get an award, it's okay. You don't care for recognition, and you do what you think is right, and let the things be. So the objective of Sthiti Prakarana is to achieve that frame of mind. In Upashamana Prakarana, he explains why it is crucial to identify the threats to mind and how to elevate it. Because no matter how calm you may be, the situation in life will always force you to be distraught, to be frustrated, to be uh, to hate, and to identify these things at the source and to elevate it is the very objective of Upashamana Prakarana. Finally, the sixth chapter or the sixth Prakarana is Nirvana Prakarana. The nirvana, as most believe, is what happens when an individual achieves, is dies and achieves some state where he becomes nirvana. The nirvana, according to Yoga Vasishta, is not about death. It is not about arriving at some place after death, but simply being and staying liberated. And it is a very sophisticated subject by itself. And I would suggest there are a couple of articles on our website on this, which has been written by myself, to have a look at it. It's a beautiful concept and it will be of great help to anyone who intends to have a blissful life. The first thing that happens in Yoga Vasishta is that Rama says, "Oh, I cannot bear this. Oh, it is so painful. Oh, it is so helpless. I don't know what to do. I don't know whether I should do this." And so on and so on and so forth. And Vasishta asked to him, "Who are you, Rama?" So Rama is then got into a thinking mode. And the Rama replies, "I am Sharira, or this body." Vasishta says, "You are not the body, my son." And he says, "Why do you think so?" Vasishta says, "Simply because the body that you have now and the body that you had when you came to my Gurukul for education are two different bodies. You didn't have beard, you were shorter, now you're taller, you have beard and everything. So the body has changed. And if you are the body, you died with that body which was there when you had come to my ashram. So who are you, Rama? Again, the same question. And then Rama says, I am Mana, that I am mind. And Vasishta, of course, says, you are not the mind. Rama asks, why? Because if you are the mind, then the people you loved when you are young, you should have loved them even today. The mind is more fickle than the body. What you liked yesterday, you may hate it today. And what you hate today, you may even love it altogether, tomorrow. So you cannot be mind that is so fickle. So Rama thinks about it and then he says, then who am I? Now that is when the Vasishta explains to him the concept of Atman. You are that which transcends the mind or mana. And it leads to a series of discussion. So what is mana? The key points to be taken away during this discussion is that Rama suggests that, the Vasishta suggests that Atmana or the consciousness cannot be explained in words. The words have limited approach. Atmana knows way more than what the mind knows. During this conversation, Rama asked to Vasishta, when do I know that it is my Atmana in control and not my mana? Vasishta gives a very simple question. He says, if anything that you are doing, thinking or acting, if it is done without any forethought, for example, if someone hurls an abuse at you and you abuse him back without a second thought, then that is your mind at work. Similarly, if any of the six detrimental qualities or arishad vargas, that is kama, lust, anger, greed, infatuation, ego, and envy. That is kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, and matsarya. These six entities, if these are influencing you to act or not act or react, then anything that you are doing is owing to the mind. The mind has wants and don't wants, but your self has no need at all. It is always at peace. So the Rama here asks another interesting question. He says, if only my mind has needs and I don't have any need, then why is it that, I feel hungry, I feel, want of money? Vasishta says it is your mind and body. So should I leave this mind and body altogether? So Vasishta says, definitely not. You just have to get the control of your mind. So how do you know exactly that the mind is in control? When you think, when you don't accept anything blindly, when you do sadhana. The sadhana is another important original concept of Yoga Vasishta. The sadhana happens in three steps. Shravan, that is listening, observing, reading. Manan, memorizing whatever that you have read without any manipulation. And Nididhyasana, that is the ultimate and eternal step. So whatever you hear, read, and learn, and if you are blindly accepting that, oh, because some person has said it, it should be right, and you are not questioning it, then that is your mana at work. And mana will follow anything where it is made to believe that, whatever it desires will come true. But Vasishta suggests that mana can never be happy. Mana is never happy by its own. So some people might argue that no, if I have that, my mind will be happy. Not at all. If you think you will be happy when you are a billionaire, probably you should go and just talk to some billionaires and see if they are happy. All right. So there is one good story which is mentioned in Yoga Vasishta here, which is worthy of recollection. So Vasishta recollects here a story of a king and who had everything in life which he could want for. He had money, he had dependable lieutenants, he had a wonderful family, and yet he was not happy at all. So he called his minister and he asked his minister that, I am very unhappy. So let me, find me a way out of this. So minister at the first went to his Rajaguru and said that, Rajaguru, the king is having a unique problem. I don't know what to do. Can you help? So the Rajaguru, his name was Parashara, he went to this king and he said, so what's your problem, my son? He said, Guru, I cannot feel happy. I have everything in this world any person can ask for, and I'm still not happy. So this Rajaguru suggests, don't worry, son. It's very simple. You just need to find a cloth worn by the happiest person. Okay. So the king is happy that his mind's become find some pleasure in the fact that okay, the solution is that simple. So he calls for his minister and he says, see, my guru has suggested that I should wear the cloth worn by a person who is happy. You must be happy, right? So give me your cloth. So the minister said, king, I am your servant. I am in your indenture. How do you expect me to be happy? Why are you not happy? I don't know how long I'm going to be in this job. If you don't like me right now, you can fire me. So without that, how can I do? I have fear. In presence of fear, no person can be happy. So then they brought the most richest businessman in the kingdom, and the king said the same thing. You must be happy, right? So give me your clothes. I want to wear it and be happy. So the businessman said, sir, yes, I have money, but I have to protect that money. I don't know when you will increase the taxes. If your taxes increases, then my profits will go down. I will be having a lot of problem. Okay. I don't think I can ever be happy, okay, because of fear. Nobody is happy. And finally, the king goes back to his Rajaguru and he says that, Guru, I don't know. Nobody is happy. Where do you think I can find the happiest person? So this Rajguru replies that, listen, son, I am the most happiest person because I have no mind. I don't have any of this Arishad Vargas. But then remember, before I took on this garb, I was also a king. I had done my duties. And when I did everything to the right extent, that I relinquished everything and then I became this. So even if you take my garb, it is not going to be of any help because people will think you are a powerist fool. Okay. So if you want to be happy, do your duty without any sense of attachment, remaining detached. So that's one of the interesting stories, and I hope you will like it. You will like it. So the mana and atmana. So this atmana, which cannot be described, which can only be realized and felt by an individual himself or herself, is there in every being, in every single uh, living being across the universe. And that is called as Sarvatmana. It's a collective consciousness. And it is also called as Paramatmana. So Paramatma or Sarvatma, they are one and the same. The Sarvatma is often mistranslated along with Paramatma by great many translations. This one translation, this one mistranslation has led to chaotic destruction of the original message that is embedded in Yoga Vasishta, which can help literally anyone to understand why he suffers and how not to suffer. The objective of all the Vedic texts, including Yoga Vasishta, is Sukham. Sukham is essentially perpetual happiness. It is not momentary pleasure. There's a difference between pleasure and happiness and bliss. Pleasure is momentary. If somebody is having a drink, if he's having a smoke, if he's having a sex, he will find pleasure. And that is only momentary. It is there now, gone tomorrow. And once you have those pleasure, you want to have it again and again and again. That's how the addiction comes into being. If anything can get you pleasure, which you think is significant, then you will be addicted to that thing. It can be an object or even a person. It's your choice. The sukham or the perpetual happiness, or better put, bliss, is the nature of your own true self. So if you don't have your mind, then you are absolutely happy, or you are actually in the state of tranquility and true bliss. Now, A lot of people have made a lot of fuss about this in the so-called the business of gurudom. But let me tell you in very simple words, you are actually happy without the mind. If you don't believe, relax and try to think of a time in life when you have experienced bliss. If you're trying to recollect and you think that you have never had this blissful thing which was everlasting, just try to recollect the last time you slept well. That sleep which had no dreams, that had no attachments. You didn't remember your loved ones, you didn't remember anyone you hate, and you are absolutely peaceful. You are not connected to your body, your mind was absent, and you're still there. Just try to recollect that experience. That experience is bliss. And that bliss cannot come from anywhere or from any person, but only when your mind is dead or it is been tamed. The second, if you want to be a sukhi person or one who experiences sukham, then you also need to understand dukkham. Dukkha or pain only happens if you think you are the mind. It doesn't matter what dress you wear. You can wear a saffron, you can wear some modern dress, you can wear jeans. It doesn't matter. But if you think you are the mind and you say that, oh, I have done this, I have done that, I have helped so many people, I have achieved so many things, and you are obsessed with the idea of yourself, which is nothing but the idea of yourself created by the mind, thinking that that mind itself is the ultimate being, then you are going to experience dukkha no matter what. Your pleasures will always be limited, and you have to struggle for that pleasure. And you will only suffer dukkham, and sukham will be absolutely invalid. The most people with wealth, the most people with most power, if you observe, they have problem with sleep. They sleep less. They don't sleep well. They have nightmares. And that is because they think that they are the mind. If you think you are the mind, no matter you're powerful or powerless, you are going to suffer. The next important aspect is karma. The idea of karma yoga didn't originate in Krishna's Bhagavad Gita, but in Yoga Vasishta. Karma is action, the work you do. It is also the actions of the past. It is also the resultant consequences of those actions that you have done in the past. So no matter what, even if you're keeping quiet, if you say that, oh, if action is so complicated and it is to have a conflict, consequences, then I'll keep quiet. I'll not do anything. But Vasishta says that even if you enact, that is also a karma, but a negative karma. There is karma, akarma, and vikarma. Akarma is when you think, or your mind thinks that you're not doing any karma. And vikarma is when you're doing the negative karma or you're trying to hurt anyone, at those point in time. The karma can be understood only through jnana. And jnana is not any data or information. Jnana is knowledge. It comes from data and information. It is based on data and information, but it is not just data and information. And once you attain the jnana, then you must be on your way to vijnana or wisdom. And wisdom is that which transcends all the data, information, and even knowledge. So if you have transcended yourself to a point where you realize that everything in the world to their true character. And if you are able to effortlessly understand people, knowledge, then you have attained the state of Vijnana. And Vijnana can never be possible. A person cannot be wise without having Vijnana or wisdom. And wisdom is impossible without a person being able to understand primarily, first and foremost, that he is not the mind, but that which transcends the mind. It is only when you are wise that you can understand the reality. The word reality is called as Satya. It is also used as a truth or fact in the later on languages, but in Vedic Sanskrit, Satyam is essentially the reality. What is real? The entire world is dying. Entire world is being born. There is Srishti, Sthiti, Laya. There is creation, destruction, and recreation happening all around us. From the time I started this webinar, and by the time the webinar is over, so many people will die. So many people will be born in this world, and that is the reality. That is the truth. But on a superior level, the truth is the fact that you are not the mind. So when you know that you are not the mind, when you understood this satyam through jnana and vijnana, knowledge and wisdom, you can see that the reason why you are crying, the reason why you are sad, the reason why you are upset or you are feared is because you are not able to see the reality. No matter what you do, no matter who you are, no matter what you want to achieve or have achieved already, it is all a matter of time. It's all going back to dust. It is not going to be there at all. That is one of the reasons why none of the rishis cared to write their biography. They didn't even explain them who they were or who their fathers were or what the family they came from. It is irrelevant. It is of no help in being obsessed about anything. It is only when you can see that reality in yourself, that Atmana in yourself, is that you can see the subtle reality as well as the material reality. When you see the material reality, you will be able to solve all and sundry problems that is affecting you at any point in time. Mithyan or unreality is basically anything which uh, is what you think to be right. If you are thinking that, oh, if I get that money, all my problem will be solved and I'll be happy, you are wrong. You'll never be happy. In Yoga Vasishta, Vasishta says to Rama that, Rama, if you want to be happy, know who you are. That is the first happiness. You cannot achieve something externally and be happy internally. On the contrary, if you are happy internally, then you will, by the virtue of knowing who you are, you will be able to restrain the mind. And with the restrained mind, which is calm and at peace, you will be able to achieve anything in the world. The biggest myth that everyone spreads in the world is that, oh, come to me, okay, I will give you a secret for success. Okay, the success has no secrets. The objective of success in at the root core is to be happy, and that is not and that secret is what I have just told you, that you need to know that you are not the mind. Once you know you are not the mind, you will start knowing on your own who you are over a period of time. And eventually, you will be able to cut through the mithyas or mithya, and you are able to see the satya, and then you will find sukha. Now, there is a brilliant concept called Maya. Maya is anything that which has no reality, but it seems to be a real. For example, if you are in a dark room and you see a rope hanging, your mind can confuse it for a snake and get terrified as if there is really a snake. But when you have the light, you can see the rope and your mind is no more at fear. Maya exists in a state of ignorance, in a state where you think you are the mind, you think that the material knowledge is everything, and that once you have, and only this knowledge will help you to achieve something. You have to overcome this Maya to be anywhere close to happy in your life. If you are happy, says Vasistha, your face will glow. He says that a wise person is very appealing to understand. He has a voice, he has a depth, he is humble. So any person who says I, and he really stands for it, is not wise. He is a person who is infested with Maya. And Maya comes from mana. So until and unless you have not overcome the mana, this Maya will delude you. It makes you shy away from the truth or Satyam, and it will push you towards Mithya. The reason for the mind to have this Maya is Moha or Moha Maya. It happens through attachment. We have all these people who are trying to say that, oh, my child, my wife, my parent, my dog, my cat. So everything, that idea of my, or me, or I, is nothing but Moha Maya. Nothing is yours. When you are born with nothing. You come out of your mother's womb without anything. And when you are going to go, nothing is going to be left of you. And yet you want to accumulate everything that you have. And you want to say that, oh, this is what, this is mine, this is me. The problem is that once you are too attached to anything in life, attachment doesn't mean that you live without need or you don't have desire. Even if you have desire, achieve those desire in a way to least hurt any other person. You hurt someone else only when you see that person to be not yours. And the person you think to be yours will be the most dangerous person you'll ever know. History will tell us that how the kings who eliminated all the person he thought to be enemies only created enemies in the long run. And all this mess happens simply because of this concept of Mohamaya, which comes from Maya, which in turn comes from Mana, when the Mana thinks itself as that which is the self. So when you have understood these concepts, Vasishta says, you achieve a state of nirvana. So, in a state of nirvana, it is also called in other texts as a state of sthita prajna. So, sthita prajna means prajna is also the another word for atmana. It is also the word that relates very closely with the conscious self. So, we are this consciousness. So, when you attain the state of nirvana, you are at peace. You are happy. Every time you have some pain, you realize that it is not yours. So you know it is of the mind. And if the mind has been caused some pain, you, by the virtue of your consciousness, will be able to find ways. It is only when you know that you are not inside the box of your mana or the mind that you can think outside the box. So in Arthashastra, Kautilya says that it is only when a person has understand the preceding Vedic wisdom will he be able to benefit greatly from these texts. So the objective of Yoga Vasishta is not to let go of the whole world. It is not to just say that, oh, I'm letting everything, I'm going to some ashram, I'm going to take sannyasa, or that I'm going to live in a forest just like that. The objective of yoga is to live in the world, love people for what they are, accept their fault lines, and do what is right, or do that which dharma suggests, or the dharma or swadharma pervades. So swadharma is only when you have understood who you are, that is not the mind, and through that consciousness, through that attained state of consciousness, you know what is right and what is wrong. In Shanti Parva of Mahabharata, Bhishma tells to Yudhishthira that your consciousness is your great thing. But to understand consciousness, you need to transcend the mind. You need to know what is mind and not what is not mind. And only then will you be able to really listen to your conscience. Otherwise, it is just the mind which is playing foul. It is the moha or mohamaya. So I hope you liked the presentation today. I will be most happy if you have any questions which I could answer to. Okay, so there are two ways. Okay, there's one question. Okay. Hello, Kirti. How can I help you today?
Hello, sir. First of all, thank you so much for another amazing presentation.
Thank
Sir,
you.
I wanted to know that in these days, you might be actually hearing of so many people, they are taking their lives, they are committing suicide. One news we got today that it is about Bollywood actor Sushant Singh Rajput. He also committed suicide. So, what can you tell us about the role of yoga so that we should we should maintain that peace in ourselves so we can avoid such kinds of bad thoughts coming to our mind. It is nowadays very important for us. So how we can do that? Please tell us something about that.
Okay. I think that's a brilliant question. So the most important thing you must know during a suicide is, as Vasishta says, it is only happens, pain in life only happens when you think that you are the mind, that whatever the mind is telling you or whatever the mind is leading you to believe is to be true. So the reason why people commit suicide is because they think they are finished. Okay. And they are finished when they have lived with limited ideas in life. Okay. And they have considered that there is nothing much left, they can do. That their idea of happiness has been diluted and that it's over. In life, if you realize the idea of mind, it is the mind itself is limited. And if you think that you are the mind, then your limitations is even less because the mind has extremely limited understanding of the world. What Yoga Vasishta teaches us is that if you are thinking that you are the mind, that is itself is the beginning of all the problem on earth. Okay, so the moment we realize we are not the mind, then we can see all the lies that is spreads to us. We'll know what is satya, what is mithya, what is truth, what is untruth. It is inability of people to understand the mind and to follow the mind blindly is what leading us all to this. So the only way you can liberate your mind is by following the precepts of the great Rishi and your own understanding that you are not the mind and following your true conscience or Atmana. I hope this helps.
So thank you so much. But again, I want to ask another question if you allow
Sure,
me to do so.
sure,
So,
please.
in this materialistic world, actually, how we can find our true happiness, which leads to actually the nirvana, the main goal of our life.
Well, it's very simple. If you can just let go of your mind, everything that is creating the trouble to you is your mind. So so whatever the mind is telling you to believe that, oh, if you don't get this, if I don't get this, I'm finished. If I don't get that, I'm not going to be happy. It is the basic false pretense. So if you understand that there is nothing like idamittam, then that's the right word, which also comes in Yoga Vasishta. That if you think everything is nimitta, but if you think that idamittam, that is only this, then that is the end of it. Oh, the person I care for is, only if he is there will the world make a sense to me. That's nonsense. Okay, how is it that you are lived up with that person for a long time? Okay, and you have been you don't know any person for thousands of for all the years that you are on this earth, and suddenly you find a person and that person betrays you and it's because you trust, and you finish it off saying that your world is not there. You existed in this body much before you seen that person. So how can any person or anything or any situation can hurt you that much? So there is absolutely no way that the only way if you want to feel happiness is just use inquiry. So if your mind is telling you that, oh no, I am lost my job, now my world is finished, oh I have nothing else to do, I have a lot of debt. Remember that the beautiful thing in life is that nothing is stale. What is if you are feeling if you are unhappy today, tomorrow you will feel happy, but you just need to wait for it because the mind is fickle, the situation is fickle, and the world is created by the great many minds. So everything is transitory in this world. So what you think is today is your your threat may tomorrow be your opportunity. And in Shanti Parva, Bhishma says to Yudhishthira that if you can find a calm, the peace, the state of nirvana or the state of sthita prajna, then you will be able to see every opportunity in problem And if you are not able to see your own true self, everything in the world is a problem. Just look at any frustrated person. He just tell you that, oh, this is bad, that is bad. So basically, they are not able to see it through because they think they are the mind. So principally, to say it in simple words, mind is all the problem. You just need to transcend mind and take charge of that mind through your consciousness. And everything will unfurl itself. You don't have to worry about anything on this earth.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. It
Sure.
was a
Thank you
very
so much.
enlightening answer by you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's not my answer, it is always all the rishis. So if I've made any mistakes, so please forgive me.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Hello, Marinal.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely.
Hello, thank you so much. This was very, very interesting. Very thankful
My
for this.
pleasure.
I don't know
My
if you see my question, but I can ask you directly.
Sure, please.
So, the mind is an instrument of our body, and I understand what you explained that, we need to be able to transcend it and go beyond the mind and not identify with it.
Yes.
But yet, we do have this mind in this life, How can we use it to our advantage? In other words, not falling prey to the mind, like, identifying with it, but yet being able to make good use of it, in this life. Is there a
Okay.
way? I don't know if I'm making myself clear, but
Absolutely. I'm very clear with what you're trying to say. So your question
okay.
is why, so we have the mind, and even if we know that we are not the mind, it will always play its game on us and we will fall a prey to it. So how do we make sure that the mind doesn't prey on us and we are in charge and not it in charge? Correct?
Right. So how
Okay,
how can we put it to a good use, in other words, instead
sure.
of being prey of it, but use it to our advantage, to the advantage of the soul, So in other words, that's my question. Thank you.
Sure. So the answer that this very interesting question, you need to understand that you need to understand your consciousness, and consciousness nobody can teach you, not even me, not even the great rishis. It is only through the whole process of nididhyasana, or the constant contemplation of revalidation of everything that you have thought. So every time mind plays a game on you, you know it is mind, or you should know from this point onwards that it is your mind. When you realize that you are not feeling happy about it, then that you are not calm. If you are not calm or happy or both, then your mind is playing the games on you. The only way to set it right is by questioning the mind. So if you are not happy, just question everything. So it can be anything. Okay, so somebody has a business and business is not doing good and the mind is not happy. Will being unhappy, will being frustrated help the cause? Definitely not. So the better way to handle the situation is, in a very simple concept, is by questioning the mind and every precepts. If the mind is unhappy, it has some questions, it has some basic assumptions or presumptions. Identify that assumptions and presumptions, and you can solve any problem of your mind. There is no absolute in this material world. This world is absolutely transitory. Anything that a person you love today may hate you tomorrow. A situation that is against you today will be favorable tomorrow. But for that, you need to exist, and you need to exist with peace. So, if this is the truth, why is it that anything will be a threat to you? The threat is pursued by a mind. There are no threats or opportunities. It is only the mind which pursues it. And if you read a couple of my articles, I will on the Vedic Management Center, I've already spoken about it. There's a mind. There's an article called as the Atmana, beyond the mind. So maybe that will help you more. And if you have any more questions, always feel free to write to me on my email, mahesh@vedic-management.com. I hope this helped.
Thank you very much. Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much.
much. Sure.
Looking forward to your next webinar. Bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Maryada. Thank you
Bye.
so much. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, so okay, one second. I'm just having some problem. Okay, so let me take some question and answers from the Q&A. Can we say that Dukkham is Saturn? Freddie Wissink. Well, Freddie, the most important thing that you must understand here is that the astrology is based on, or this Vedic Jyotish is essentially based on what is called as Jyotish Shastra or Jyotish. So Jyotish comes from the word light. So anything, the science, it is, you can better translate it as science of light. I think you are confusing, you are trying to relate the idea of Saturn in, or Shani in Jyotish. I personally do not follow astrology. I don't think any of the Vedic text ever supported astrology. But then that is my understanding. And in Vedic text, it is, you have to follow your own consciousness and your own judgment, which I am following whatever the best judgment I can. So I don't think I can sanctify that question or I can accept that question. So you may need to find someone who is better at that. Okay, Sumit Gupta, can you share a recording of this webinar? Definitely, Sumit, we'll definitely do. Prashant Joshi, is Sarvatmana or Paramatmana similar to the idea of Brahma in Advaita philosophy? Yes, definitely. So Brahma is essentially Brahm or the self. So Adi Shankaracharya's Advaita in all its entirety is a direct reflection of the greatest Vedic thoughts, including Yoga Vasishta. There is also a text which I have read long back. It's not available online for some reason. It was called as Yoga Vasishta Tika by Adi Shankaracharya. It is missing, but if I find it, I will definitely post it online. So, Arjun Mehta, is Yoga Vasishta part of Ramcharitmanas or is it a separate work? Ramcharitmanas is a work that was written in 15th century or 14th century by an individual named Tulsidas, and it was written in Awadhi. Awadhi is the, as I already suggested, it's the language which began with, it's the earlier version of Hindi or Hindustani as we know it today. So Ramcharitmanas is essentially a fictionalized account of Valmiki's Ramayana. The characters are mostly the same, but the interpretations are diametrically different. And no, Tulsidas never gives any great opinion about Vasishta anywhere. There's actually he's shown in poor light by even other people. Like Sant Kabir said that Guru Vasishta to Pandita Gyani Sita Rama Milana Kare Dasharatha Marana Sita Harana Dharadhara Bhatakata Rama Fire. So Kabir Das says if Guru Vasishta was such a great knowledgeable person, then why did he ask Rama to marry Sita? Look at what has happened because of it. Dasharatha Marana, Dasharatha died. Sita Harana, Sita was abducted. Dhara Dhara Bhatakata Ram Fire. And Ram had to, wander in the forest like hell. So Vasishta is not understood for obvious reasons because it takes a lot of energy to read Yoga Vasishta, and you also have to find time to contemplate on it. So it's a matter of discipline, which is not easy to be. So no, the answer is Yoga Vasishta is not even mentioned in Ramcharitmanas. Anonymous attendee. How does a Sthita Prajna go about living the earthly life? Well, that's very simple answer to question. If you find a Sthita Prajna, just see if he's too hyper or too happy at one time and too unhappy at other time. Any person who can keep his grace and always be calm, he's a Sthita Prajna. Not many people those days, I'm sure, but if you find them, just insult them first, then bloat them or first bloat them and then insult them, see their reaction. If they are having a too different, if they're too affected by it, then that person is not Sthaprajna. Okay, Jasmine Bragg, is Patanjali's yoga concept by any different than Yoga Vasishta? Actually, the Patanjali's Yoga Sutras are, if I put it bluntly, is a rip-off of Yoga Vasishta. And Patanjali was a much later figure. He was not exactly a Vedic thing. And as I always say, not everything that glitters is gold, and not everything Sanskrit is Vedic. But in this case of Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, I think because it comes from the sage like Vasishta, there is a lot of sense in reading it. Surya Murthy, sir, please share this recording and helpfully. Definitely, we'll make this possible. Okay, Nikhil Kale, how is moksha different from nirvana? Moksha comes from the root word mukti, it is liberation. Nirvana is essentially liberation. Moksha and nirvana, in principle, going by the Vedic Sanskrit, are one and the same. They are not different at all. But then if you compare it with the Panini Sanskrit, they have a very different interpretation. The moksha is suggested when you reach the ultimate personality of the Godhead or something like that. But there is no such idea of God in any of the Vedic text. Arjun Mehta, is it then a part of Valmiki's Ramayana? Yes, definitely. It is only Valmiki who records that entire conversation between Rama and Vasishta. And it comes in the second or third chapter of Valmiki's Ramayana. But some of the intellectual have used it as an opportunity to make it a different text. And most of the time it has not yielded the desired results. So I hope I have taken as many questions as possible. Still a lot many questions here. Okay, so I'm 8 minutes out of my line. So thank you everyone. Thank you so much for attending this webinar. I'm so glad that there are 316 attendees so far. Lot many questions. I will try to answer them everything. Always feel free to ask me on any question you have on my social media or even my email. My email is mahesh@vedic- that is minus management.com. And we are going to have, and if anybody is interested, we'll be shortly launching an interactive course on the Vedic self-counseling based on the work of Yoga Vasishta. So do keep an eye for that. Last but not the least, anything I have said here, if it has hurt anyone's sentiments, do know that it is not my intent to hurt anyone's sentiment, but only to present the truth which I feel is right. In this mind, in this body, we are all prone to our own limitations. So I can never say that what I'm saying is absolute or only the truth, but this is the truth which I have followed for at least 2 decades of my life and have benefited from it. And so I'm making a humble effort to present it. If my knowledge is of no use to you, anything that I have said to you that is brilliant, it is all thanks to the great works of these rishis and rishikas. And anything wrong, I sincerely apologize for all the mistakes. So blame me for anything wrong, but not the great sages and the seeds, the rishis and rishikas. Thank you so much for watching this webinar. I'll come up with one more webinar every week from now on. So thank you so much. Pranam.